Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Abigail and I'm a mum, a wife and nurse manager. So today we're going to do something a little bit different and keep it a bit lighthearted. We're going to play Never Have I Ever Nurse Edition. So I asked my husband to compile some of these from online and nursing forums just to keep it as on the spot as possible. So I will apologise if some of these are a little bit irrelevant. He doesn't have a healthcare background. Do share this video. Leave all your comments in the comment section below. If you liked the video, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos, and also don't forget to turn on your bell notification so that you don't miss another one of my videos. Stay tuned. So welcome back guys. I've got my husband's iPad here and we're good to go. Never have I ever been friends with a patient on social media. Nope, I've never been friends with a patient on social media. I've been asked by patients at work, but I've never actually added them or been friends with them on social media. I'd probably like to maintain a professional relationship with the patients and maintain professional boundaries as well. Not to mention that there are serious policies against this, so no, I've never been friends or added any patients on social media. Never have I ever been hit on by a patient. A number of times in the past, yes, from patients of all ages. Some of them a bit more adamant and persistent than others, but I usually don't entertain these kind of conversations. And if need be, if they're really persistent, I would have to remind them of our professional relationship and that this is not going to happen. Never have I ever had friends ask me for medical advice. Of course, all the time. You get people thinking that you know everything because you're a nurse. I would never diagnose whatever the problem is. I usually just suggest where to go, say maybe see a GP or a dietitian depending on what the problem is. But I would never diagnose it because I don't diagnose patients at work, so I wouldn't do it outside of work. Also, I remember last year on the topic of people assuming that you know everything, I was talking to a friend while I was pregnant last year. I was asking something pregnancy related or kids related, and another friend suggested that I should know this question that I'm asking because I'm a nurse, and I very cheekily answered back, actually this other friend with no healthcare background probably knows more about kids than I do. She has 3 kids. And that I'm a nurse, not a midwife. But anyway, never have I ever ignored a call bell. No, I would never ignore a call bell. I'd probably prioritize them, but I wouldn't ignore the call bell. Say, for example, I had 2 patients' bells going off and one of the patients was on a chemotherapy infusion. I would probably go to that patient first because I'd be afraid maybe they're having a reaction or there's a problem, and then I'd attend to the other bell, but I would never ignore a call bell. Never have I ever slowed down with my workload to avoid helping my colleagues. No, I have not. You could be there all day depending on how slow your colleague is, so no. For some weird reason, night shifts come to mind with this one. I usually try and finish up my bits as quickly as possible so that I can turn off the lights so that the patients can sleep. And then I would go and help wherever help is needed. Also, I don't like being idle and not doing anything, so I would definitely help. But if I did notice that a colleague was particularly slow, I would still help, but I would mention it as well from a good place because I would hate for another colleague to see it and escalate it inappropriately to management. This was back when I was a staff nurse. I don't do nights anymore, yay. And also, sometimes it's to do with it's newly qualified nurses. So in that scenario, I would give reassurance that their time management will improve over time because it does take time for you to manage your time efficiently as a nurse. A lot of the time it has to do with workload as well. Say my colleague is in Ward A and I'm in Ward B. In Ward A, you could have 3 overnight infusions of chemotherapy running, 10 antibiotics and a blood transfusion. I can't think of anything else. I'm mad about blood transfusions. And then in Ward B is 6 patients completely independent that are just waiting for scans. So you can see that there's an imbalance there. So sometimes you have to put it into context as well, but I wouldn't slow down with my workload just to avoid helping my colleague. Never have I ever washed my hands before using the toilet. Never have I ever washed my hands before using the toilet. Yeah. I was kind of lost there for a minute. Yes, this is very common, I'd say, with all healthcare professions. Obviously, you wash your hands before using the toilet in case you have contaminated it with from patient care with bodily fluids or medication or things like that. But yes, I do wash my hands before and after using the toilet. Never have I ever lied to a patient. I wouldn't call it lying. Sometimes you have to watch how you deliver things so that it doesn't come across in a way that's unnecessarily alarming. From personal experience as well, being in the hospital, sometimes when you hear things for the first time, you can kind of get hysterical, and then after a while you think about it and it's like, it's not that bad. But I wouldn't lie to a patient. I just watch how I deliver things. Never have I ever said everything is fine when everything isn't fine. Never. I have never said to a patient that everything is fine when everything isn't fine. Even if I have a little bit of the information and still waiting for the full information, I still wouldn't discuss it with a patient. A lot of the time we have to wait for the consultants to come up and kind of update us on what's going on. So I would usually say to the patients that it's best to wait for the consultant to come up so that they can give like the whole picture of what's going on. But I would never say everything is fine when it's not fine. Never have I ever given out to a patient. I wouldn't call it giving out. I would call it stern advice. So an example that comes to mind was, I remember there was a time a patient was having an infusion of chemotherapy and he went for a walk. So he left the ward completely outside of the ward. And when he came back, I had to tell him very sternly, you are on an infusion of chemotherapy. Not all staff in the hospital know the ins and outs of chemotherapy. So if anything were to happen, it would be quite unsafe. But I wouldn't call it giving out. I would call it stern advice. Never have I ever thought that I have an ailment that I've learned about. All the time. I promise I'm not a hypochondriac. But yes, I have diagnosed myself a number of times with things that I've just learned about. Never have I ever cheated during an exam. No, I have never cheated during an exam. I don't even think it's possible with nursing exams. Back when I did my bachelor's degree, I think there were one or two modules that required multiple choice question style questions and answers, but most of them are essay style questions and answers. So you'd get a scenario about a patient's condition and then you'd have to describe the nursing care you provided essay style. And with the essay style answers, there is some room for waffling, so I wouldn't want to be copying off someone else's waffle. Not saying that, well, I'm sure, I don't know, you probably can cheat, but I've never cheated. And I don't think it's easy to cheat with essay style answers. So anyway, I've never cheated in an exam. Never have I ever had to retake an exam. Nope, never. Never have I ever gone a whole shift without eating. Yes, I have, numerous times, mainly in my early years when I was newly qualified. But yes, I've done that. Never have I ever stolen someone's lunch from the break room. No, I like food. I really, really like food, but I can be quite fussy. And not to say that's the reason why I haven't done it, but I haven't stolen anyone's lunch from the break room and I don't plan on doing so. Never have I ever used a scalpel to cut cake at work. So maybe this is one of the irrelevant ones, or maybe not. Anyway, no, I have never used a scalpel to cut cake at work. Most workplaces, at least that I know of anyway, there are knives available in the break room or in the kitchen to cut cake. And the blades on scalpels are relatively small. But anyway, no, I have never used a scalpel to cut cake. Never have I ever used a tongue depressor as an eating utensil. No, I haven't. I really like food, like I previously said, and I usually take big spoonfuls at a time, so a tongue depressor wouldn't do. For those of you that don't know what a tongue depressor is, it's basically, you know the stick for the Magnum ice creams? So it's basically like that, and if you maybe multiply it by 2 in terms of width, that's what a tongue depressor looks like. So you couldn't pick up any food with that. I have never used a tongue depressor as an eating utensil. Never have I ever eaten microwave popcorn from a clean bedpan. 1, I am not a big fan of popcorn, and 2, that's disgusting. Like, what the hell? Who eats from a bedpan? Never have I ever worked a night shift. Of course I've worked a night shift many times. I'm not a big fan of night shifts. I don't like night shifts, but I have worked night shifts. Any nurse that works in an inpatient setting will likely have to work night shifts. So back when I was a staff nurse, I worked loads and loads of night shifts, but I don't work night shifts anymore, yay! Never have I ever been staffed appropriately. Okay, so you probably find this hard to believe, contrary to what's out there. I have been staffed appropriately many times, but that's not to say that there isn't a huge staffing problem in nursing. There is a massive problem, and I've experienced it firsthand many times. There's a huge problem with staffing in nursing, but I have been staffed appropriately as well in the past. Yeah. Never have I ever ruined a perfectly good day off thinking about work. Absolutely, so many times. And don't even get me started with if I happen to be spending the day with a nursing buddy. Never have I ever thrown up at something I've seen at work. Never. Neither have I seen anyone actually do it. Not saying that it doesn't happen, I've just never witnessed it, and I've never thrown up at anything that I've seen at work. Never have I ever gone a full 12-hour shift without peeing once. Absolutely, yes, I have. Many times. I still do it. I can't get out of the habit. And I talked about this in my previous video, which I'll actually leave a link in the description box below, and I'll leave a link as well at the end of this video that you can directly click on. But yes, I have held my pee for more than 12 hours. It's not good. It's not good. Never have I ever told a confused patient that your name is that of a co-worker and to call if they need help. Absolutely not. I have never done that. I don't have a problem with a patient knowing my name, especially when I'm meant to be looking after them, confused or not. I don't find this one funny. Never have I ever inserted a urinary catheter. Of course I have, many times. It can be a bit tricky, but yes, I have inserted a urinary catheter. Never have I ever performed fecal disimpaction. Okay, so if you don't know what fecal disimpaction is, Google it. I'm not going to talk about it. I have performed fecal disimpaction probably about 6 or 7 years ago, and around the time that I did do it, there was a lot of talk about whether it was actually safe to do so, but I haven't done it in 6 or 7 years. And also it is still being done as part of medical assessments or if deemed necessary by a medic, but I haven't seen it being done, nor have I done it in the last 6 or 7 years. But definitely Google fecal disimpaction if you don't know what it is, because I'm not going to talk about it. Never have I ever been involved in CPR. Oh my god, yes, I've been involved in CPR a number of times. Never have I ever performed chest compressions. Yes, I have. As part of being involved in CPR, I have had to do chest compressions and taken turns with other staff members because it can be physically tiring. So yes, I have performed chest compressions. Never have I ever unclogged a feeding tube successfully. Yes, with the good old 7-Up. Never have I ever inserted an intravenous cannula. All day, every day. I work in a hematology and oncology setting, and IV cannulas or intravenous cannulas are required quite a lot, and sometimes numerous ones in one person. So yes, I am very familiar with inserting intravenous cannulas. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's video, go ahead and give me the thumbs up. Leave all your comments in the comment section below. And if you have any questions or any suggestions, do leave them in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on your bell notification so that you don't miss another one of my videos. Talk soon, guys.